Would you all please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, Chris, could you call the roll, please?
Mrs. Detzel? Here. Mr. Yoshimura?
Here.
Mrs. Bradley? Here. Mr. Gilbert?
Here.
Mr. Detzel?
Here.
Okay.
All right, if I could start the special presentations, we're going to let Daryl Yater begin.
I'd like to take a moment and introduce one of our new administrators in the district. So Lindsay Creasy is our new public relations coordinator. Lindsay obtained her Bachelor of Arts in Mass Communications and her Master of Arts in Public Administration from the University of West Georgia. Prior to coming to Northwest, Lindsay worked at Kentucky State University as a media manager and television host, where she worked very closely with media outlets, building and managing relationships with individual reporters, journalists, and broadcasters, as well as developing and organizing a comprehensive media list of news outlets across the state of Kentucky and throughout Ohio and Indiana. During her time there, she worked to promote the university's brand through copywriting, photograph, videography, and content creation. She also had the opportunity to create, produce, and manage a television program for the university known as KSU Gold, where she had the opportunity to share the university's mission, research, and the message of the organization on camera, directly connecting with the community, students, prospective students, board members, and the general public at large. She's participated in a number of leadership programs and community activities in Kentucky. She's new to Ohio area, but is becoming active within the PR community here. We are thrilled to have Lindsay on our team and helping us share all of the good news of the district. So please join me in welcoming Lindsay to the district.
At this time, I'd like to turn it over to Dustin Gehring, who's in charge of student services, who has some recognitions for us.
Yes, I'd like to welcome Jessica Kerr, our track coach from White Oak Middle School, to the front. And she has a few athletes that she'd like to present. If the athletes would like to come with her as well. Yes, we'll demand that all the coaches come with you. That'd be great. I know they're trying to avoid the podium, but it's too bad.
Awesome. Okay. So these are two girls that they went on. This is Madison Mason. Madison came in 9th in the state of Ohio in the 100-meter hurdles. And Alexa Kendall placed first in discus in the GMCs. These girls both started out the season very unsure. I remember our second meet, Madison said to me, "Oh my gosh, these girls are fast." And I said, "Girl, you're fast too." And then Alexa every meet would say, "I'm going to go out and I'm going to beat what I did last meet." And she did every single time. So these girls are just an example of what hard work, practice will get you. And they're role models on the field and off in school. They are great role models for their peers, and I know that they're just going to go on to the high school and do amazing things, and I can't wait to see what they achieve in the future.
While they're walking across, I'd like to have Lydia and Mia come up front. We can have Lydia and Mia come on up front.
Back to do the middle school. He knows hers.
Oh my goodness, what happened to her?
And coaches and athletes, in just a few moments after we do all of our recognitions, we'll have everybody step outside. So just hang tight for that. I'd like to welcome to the board two of our proud Northwest Local School District students who were able to go off to Anaheim and compete at the national level for BPA as a part of our middle school program, and they've done a fantastic job. Mia Haya was able to compete in the presentation management team as a part of a team. Congratulations to you on that achievement. That is amazing. As well as Lydia Manis, that was close. Manis, Lydia was able to not just compete at that level, but she was actually the champion at the national level for graphic design. How about that? Let's give her a hand. I'd love for you to take a moment. You weren't prepared for this, but I know you can handle it. Step over here. Just give us a few sentences of the experience. What was it like? What was your favorite part?
I don't know, but my favorite part was just competing as a team and working together and seeing what we could accomplish from the beginning to the end. It was really a pleasure to work with my friends and compete. We had a lot of fun.
My favorite part was Disney World, not gonna lie. But I had lots of fun competing too, and it was fun to go to the award ceremony and like see all the people that we competed against and figure out if you won or not.
Let's give them another round of applause. Just to double check, is Miss Bannon with us tonight? Erin Bannon?
Congratulations.
So we'll bring Erin back to another meeting. Erin, Miss Bannon was our Teacher of the Year for Corey Middle. But she was not able to make it tonight, but we'll bring her back for sure, because not only was she the Teacher of the Year here, but she was also for the district. So we'll bring her back for that celebration. Thank you very, very much. Anything to add?
What is BPA?
Business Professionals of America.
Okay.
I mean, that is a huge, people don't realize how huge of a deal that is for her winning that, so
It's incredible.
it really is.
To qualify and then to win is incredible.
Yeah.
Yeah, all three of our middle schools sent students represented for regionals, state, and nationals, and not everybody qualified for nationals, but to go and win nationals, wow.
As eighth graders, right?
Yep, and we're not done yet.
Absolutely.
So I would like to have all of my friends, students, coaches, and parents step outside. We'll take some group photos with my friend Lindsay as well, and that's also your chance to leave.
Okay,
All right.
real quick, for the kids, can you introduce your family members that came with you tonight? We'll start with the athletes, Madison and Alexa. Okay, Mia and Lydia, you want to introduce?
This is my mom, and this is my dad, and that's my sister.
This is my dad, Freddie.
Well, we're all very proud of you, and we look forward to seeing you many more times. Oh, one more family, I'm sorry. Oh, right here.
Hi, this is my dad, my mom, and my sister Ashley.
And I know the kids realize they couldn't have done it with all the support they have from the families. So big round of applause for the families as well. And
If it's okay, if you can hang tight just for a few minutes. We have one more recognition we would like to do. I'd like to welcome Ms. Weathers and Mr. Schurz, as well as Monica, to the front to come on up and present their Teacher of the Year. Come on up.
Well, you're important.
Come on up,
evening.
Monica, for crying out loud.
For those of you I don't know, I'm Jamel Weathers. I have the privilege of being co-principal at Pleasant Run Elementary School with Mr. Schurz, and Monica Bowles is our PTA president this year. And we're here to recognize Tracy Johnson as our Teacher of the Year at Pleasant Run Elementary School. Tracy, you want to come on up? Tracy has stood out as a positive community builder. And I know the list I'm going to give is just the highlights, because there's so much more to what she's done for us. She started the year by reaching out to friends and family and community members and asking them to be community buddies with her students. So each of her students has a partner from somewhere, other states also, that send them little gifts or notes throughout the year. They don't know who they are, So it's a surprise. They don't know their names. It's all just because people want to give. And so I think that that's an extra special way for us to start our year at where are we? Not Welch.
PRE.
Woo! PRE. It's been a whole year. I think I'd get that over. And Tracy is also, she planned the 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade zoo overnight trips by herself. She came to Casey and I and said, I really want to do this. And we said, really? And she said, yep. And we said, okay. And she said, I got it. Just sign off on it. And she did. She did it all by herself. She has partnered with 2 churches in the community to establish Whiz Kids after-school tutoring for our 2nd graders this year. And that has been very beneficial to them in getting them prepared to enter into 3rd grade, which is the grade she teaches. And so she's helping more than just her classroom. She's really reaching out to all of the community. And she's on our BLT member, and she's taken on the role of team leader. And we just really appreciate and love having her on our staff. And we don't know how we would be this far and have done as much as we've done without her. And so we just want to say thank you.
And Tracy, did you bring family with you?
I did.
Okay. You want to introduce? Sure.
Yes. So my mom is here from Indiana.
Hi.
I know. My son Ben, my son Alex, and my husband Mike.
They missed hall monitor.
Safety patrol.
Is that it? Congratulations.
Well, we'd like to thank her family because I know that takes many hours away from all of you, but we certainly appreciate everything she does for all the kids.
With that being said, all of our special recognitions can step outside and we'll take some pictures and also introduce. So I'll meet you out there.
I said, don't apologize for that. That's all. Dustin doesn't have to do that.
As our recognitions step out in the hall for photos, I'd like to turn it over to Dr. Stephanie Kessling, who will introduce our next presentation.
All right, I'm glad to have our preschool staff and principal here tonight to present on the wonderful things that are happening at our Houston Early Learning Center. I believe I've spoken with you, board members, about the success of our Houston Early Learning Center. So they are here tonight to present. Ame Murray, do you want to introduce your staff as the principal? Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. I would like to introduce 2 of our wonderful teachers. The first one is Jill Henderlight, and then Kayla Leonard. So thank you all for your support of your school, and we are just so proud to be able to share just a little bit with you about our school. In order to really embrace our school, we invite everybody to come and visit us and experience it first. So thank you.
So Houston Early Learning Center is a 5-star rated school through the state of Ohio. It has awarded Houston a 5-star rating. We have to meet quality standards that are established by the state of Ohio and the Department of Job and Family Services and the Ohio Department of Education. That involves a lot of paperwork. It includes programs that we do. It includes our education. There's a lot that goes into it, and Mrs. Murray has to do a lot of work to maintain our 5 stars. Step Up to Quality, it's 5-tiered quality rating. It's created to recognize and promote early learning development and development programs that meet quality standards over and above the health and safety licensing. So we have to have the health and safety licensing, but there's a lot that we do that makes us go over and above that. It starts at a 1-star. We could be a 1-star rated school, or 2-star goes all the way up to 5 stars. So we've earned as much as we possibly can because of the quality education that's provided at Houston.
In terms of the way we're benefiting the rest of the district is that 86% of the students attending Houston enter kindergarten as on track defined by the state of Ohio, and that's tested through their MAP scores and other tests that the kindergartners take when they enter. So we're pretty proud of that we really align what we do directly to the kindergarten curriculum and make sure that we work with the kids and benefiting them for kindergarten.
So we have 11 full-time licensed teachers by the state of Ohio and 8 special ed preschool intervention specialists. So we have 3 classrooms that are general education. I'm a general education teacher. And then we have 5, 8 and 8 classrooms. So students in those classrooms would be on an IEP or just be a typically developing student. And then we have 3 classrooms, 2 or 3, 2 classrooms that are self-contained classrooms too, and those students are all on IEPs. We have 7 preschool educators with master's degrees, and we have 3 general education assistants, so that would be in the 3 general education classrooms. And we also have an early childhood education tutor that also comes to those. She splits her time between the 3 classrooms so that she can give the students in those classrooms a little extra on learning goals or whatever we're working on. So we have someone that provides extra help for those classrooms. And then our special education classrooms have 12 assistants.
So here's some pictures to highlight some of the events we do. This first one is our Moments with Mom. We have an opportunity before school starts that day for moms to come in and do a craft with their student, engage with their student a little more. We also work with Hamilton County Educational Services to bring in extra programming. This was our Wiggly Worms presentation. They came and read a story aligned with worms and the education of worms, and then the kids got to play in the dirt and see how the worms interacted with them. And then this last one is our Read With Your Child Day. That's actually our early childhood tutor. That child didn't have a parent there that day, but they come in and they read with their students and learn appropriate comprehension questions to ask and things like that.
These are some of the teachers at HELP. The first one is Julie Ford. She's in a classroom at the special ed classroom. So she has 8 students that are on IEPs and then 8 typically developing students. The second one is Jane Sayers, and she is in a self-contained classroom. All of her students are on IEPs with communication needs. And then the last one's Kayla, and she's a preschool special education intervention specialist.
I also have an 8 and 8 classroom. We have 3 curriculums that we do in the our early childhood program. One is a handwriting program, and that you'll see in the first picture. We focus our instruction in handwriting on capital letters, and capital letters are just easier to access and more developmentally appropriate for our age group because there's really only 4 shapes that go along with them. There's either lines or curves, big or small, and we use those shapes to incorporate and teach students about different things in their environment and in their world too. Example, building a person. Understanding of the body parts of a person in different shapes, circles and squares and rectangles, incorporating that handwriting curriculum into cross-categorical things. We also do math curriculum and English curriculum. Our English Language Arts program is all through the OWL program, and with that comes large group instruction and small group instruction. So we kind of set up our classrooms similar to what your children will experience as they go through all of their schooling.
These are other things that we do. These are 3 of the general education classrooms. We do story time every day. In the second picture, that teacher, she took the children outside. We journal. Each of us journal every week. They were journaling, and they incorporated other parts of the curriculum about one of our learning goals that month happened to be about the weather. So they went outside to journal about the weather, and that was a science learning goal. And then that one's me. That was at Halloween Halloween, we were reading The Little Old Lady Who Wasn't Afraid of Anything, and my favorite part is when I get to yell boo and everybody screams. So, very flattering picture.
Like we said, we have a lot of family events, and we'll actually get into more of those as we go through. So, here's some of our assistants building their relationships with the students. They really serve us very well. Each one is assigned to a classroom, and they work in tandem with the teachers, with us. As you can see, they're very hands-on. They get to know the kids. They love and nourish the kids just as much as we do. So there's a little preview of our assistants.
And these are some more assistants just doing the same thing, participating in the programs, helping with things that we do in the classroom. So as we hit on before, we have 3 different categories of classrooms. There's the 3 general ed classrooms that serve 144-year-olds through a morning and afternoon session. So we are only a half-time program, or a half-day program. Then we have the 5 classrooms serving 8 typical students and 8 students with special needs, and that's in a morning and afternoon session as well. And then 2 specific special ed classrooms with up to 16 students diagnosed as medically fragile, autistic, or having high communication needs. We have our own library, which this year was new to the school. We've had a library in the past, but this library was wonderful. Not only do we have books, we have activities that the students participate when we go to library, and that ties in other aspects of the curriculum. There are science activities, literacy activity, what was I saying?
Discovery and literacy.
Yeah, so the library has been wonderful this year. It was a great addition. And then that was also a librarian came in. We have a partnership with the library and the community, and they come in and do presentations for the students also.
About seasonally.
Yeah.
So I think this was fall. We have a computer lab as our another specials. It has 24 Chromebooks and a smart board. This was also new this year, and so the students are able to interact with the technology and start learning how to navigate the technology at an early age, which will be fundamental as they go into kindergarten because a lot of testing is on computers as well.
We have an outdoor playground. We think that physical exercise is very important. We have just had 2 new blue slides installed, which was very exciting. My classroom faces the playground, so we monitored the progress the entire time they were being built. We have another jungle gym. We do chalk. They have tricycles. We have basketballs, large motor, small motor, just a lot of stuff to do on the playground.
And now that the weather is nice, we've been out there every day.
Yeah.
There's also a courtyard area in between 2 hallways at our school, and it provides extra learning space, more geared towards discovery and more of the tangible aspects. There's a sandbox, as you can see. There's a water table in there. There's also a gravel pit and musical instruments for the children to play with. We also go out there to enjoy picnics and plant vegetables.
We have a gym for days when the weather is not conducive to going outside. We have bikes in the gym. We have balls. We have the roller coaster, which my
The kids
students
love.
So when we're not able to go outside, we still have physical activity. We have things to do for gross motor.
In terms of our parent engagement, we hold a curriculum night at the beginning of the year to introduce the parents to things that we'll be hitting throughout the year. We cover all subjects, so the students and the parents will travel to different classrooms to do an art activity, a math, reading, language arts, science, and social studies activity. It gives the parents an introduction to what we'll be doing throughout the year, but it also helps them learn how to be more hands-on at home too. So this first picture is the math activity. They were counting apple seeds and then clipping the number for number identification to the correct apple. This was our science activity, and then the reading activity. All the curriculum night activities base off one book so that they can see how to incorporate all the different subjects into just one simple.
And each student gets a book to take home with them also. We have Grandparents Day. Grandparents are invited to come to Houston with their grandchildren. We have an activity in the classroom, and sometimes a snack.
Like we mentioned, we host a Read with Your Child Day every semester, I suppose. The parents or any guardian is welcome to come to the school to learn what steps to take when they're reading with their child and what questions to ask when they're reading with their child, and then have the opportunity to read with their child.
Well, another activity that we had was Time with Daddy. We did it in January, and the dads come just like the Moments with Mom. They come before school starts. We have one in the morning and then one before the afternoon session also.
Just for some quality time. We host a spring concert in the spring. There's 3 different themes that we pick from, and each class learns 2 to 3 songs to present to their parents. So the classes group together and make a prop. Everybody wears a certain costume, and we just really try and emphasize the value of singing with your children and taking time out for your child.
These are just some more pictures of Moments with Mom.
Like we said, we have a partnership with the Groesbeck Library that comes to visit. They share books, they share songs, they get the kids moving in fine motor and gross motor ways, and also focus on the comprehension and sequencing and retelling aspects of stories as well.
We have a fall celebration, and just like with curriculum night, we hit on all of the curriculum. So there's a science activity, a language arts activity, math activity, and the teachers travel classroom to classroom, so everyone gets every activity.
We also host a Community Helpers Day. Part of our social studies curriculum is learning about the community and how adults help us in the community. So we ask all the big trucks and all the big, the garbage truck, the moving truck, the fire truck, as you can see here, that's a big one. The police dogs came. They all come and fill the parking lot so that the kids can go around and look in the trucks and ask them what they do. And it's part of our curriculum of teaching them how they help us in the community and how they serve us in the community. And it's one of the children's favorite days. And ours too.
I was just going to say that. I was going to say the teachers too.
And we get to see the garbage truck too, and it's fun.
And then in the spring, for the past couple of years, we've had Mark Razio come. He is a singer. He sings his own original music. He gets the kids, they are so engaged. He's just wonderful. It's a really fun thing to do.
It's their own little private performance.
It is really their own little concert.
So yeah, that pretty much sums up the services we provide at Houston and the curriculum, the literacy skills we work on, the group and the building classroom relationships, and then all the special needs that we serve as well. Any questions?
Thank you.
Now typically you have registration when? In the spring?
In February.
At the beginning
And
of
it
February.
fills up very quickly.
It does, yeah.
This year, we had, I expect a really good registration and a really good enrollment for the year. So, yeah, it's very, very steady. Consistently.
And would you mind if we take that PowerPoint and put it on our enrollment section of our webpage? And then Lindsay can figure out other places where it goes, and we'll make sure we share it, because it's a great presentation. It'd be real easy for a parent to scroll through and look at everything you do.
Yeah.
Great, yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, ladies.
Thank you. Okay, I don't believe we have a legislative update this evening. We'll go to the Student Achievement Liaison Report.
Great, thank you. Tonight we have a group of fifth graders that are in Access, and they'll be engaging and sharing project-based learning. They were challenged to choose their topic question. Choices were, how did one idea change the world, or how could one idea change the world? They then created a project to represent that topic from their choice of the following categories: literature, performance, design, and the Shark Tank. The finalists in each category will present their projects to us.
So I'd like to introduce Nicole Dietrich, who will introduce our students. Nicole is our gifted coordinator.
All right, hi, I'm Dr. Nicole Dietrich, gifted coordinator here in the district, and our fifth grade access program, if you don't know, is for our students who are identified as gifted either in reading or cognitive ability, and many of them are identified in both, as well as math and other areas that we identify giftedness in the district. So we'll start tonight with the winner for the literature category. And that, I'll call up Agnes Serrani to introduce that student. And then why don't we do all the presentations, and then at the end, I'll call them all back up, and I have an award for them on all. Okay.
All right, is this the slide clicker?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. Hi, I'm Agnes Serrani. I am the access teacher at Pleasant Run Elementary, and I have here Jacob Barrett. He is a fifth grader, and he is one for literature. And we have a slideshow that I think would help everyone because we figured that his book would be, show me your book, Jacob. His book would be a little hard for people to see, so we just put the main images into the slideshow so that you could get a taste of it. And so, Jacob, would you like to go ahead and introduce yourself?
Hi, my name is Jacob Barrett, and I am a fifth grader at Pleasant Run Elementary.
Okay, and this is his about the author. When they write their book, they always put in about the author that gives everybody an overview of their interests and just gives you a little bit of information about themselves. Do you want to read it? Yes, okay, so it says Jacob is currently in the fifth grade at Pleasant Run Elementary. His favorite subject in school is science because it has a lot of hands-on activities. Jacob's interests are nature, video games, and snakes. In his spare time, Jacob likes to play soccer and ride horses. It is Mr. Barrett's dream to one day be a jockey because he really likes riding horses. So,
Excuse me, I'm sorry.
big goals. It's awesome. All right, so.
Lost a lot of money on jockeys.
So, did we get, oh, it started in the middle. All right, let's just start. This is his, sorry. Can we get the, yeah, thank you. There we go. Okay, so, this is his version of how one idea can change the world. And, Jacob, you want to introduce your book?
My book is called The Pollution Paradox.
Okay, and here's the cover. And so we just did a close-up of the cover. Okay. Okay. And do you want? Okay, and so it says my book is called The Pollution Paradox. Is about how my characters create a machine that sucks up all the pollution and then use a time machine to take their machine back in time so they can solve the problem earlier. The paradox is that they would never have had the idea to make a time machine or build an air cleaning machine if they go back in time and fix the problem before it happened. And Jacob used his own photographs throughout the book to illustrate it, which I thought was really, really interesting. And so that, I think, made it really special and unique. Okay, we already did that. Okay, so this is Jacob's favorite passage from the book, okay? And so what I did is I just, luckily because the book had photographs already in it, I just copied and pasted it into a slideshow. This is exactly what the page looks like. Do you want to go ahead and read it, or you want me to? He remembered a time when things were much different and things were not this bad. He said to himself, if things are this bad now, how will they be 10 years from now? I must do something to prevent this from becoming worse. And then this is a picture that Jacob took of a pond in Winton Woods. This shows how pretty some places in the world are and how he doesn't want everything like this to be destroyed. And then this is Jacob's favorite illustration, and it's a picture of a truck that his brothers have. And he wanted to use it for his time machine because it was a very unique and unusual type of vehicle. He just thought it gave him an idea for creating something. And I actually even mentioned that it reminded me of Back to the Future, but Jacob had not seen Back to the Future, so he came up with that idea himself. That was completely original. And the text says, Jason said, hey, it looks like that old small purple pickup truck in the junkyard. They asked Jacob why. Jacob replied, because that's what we're going to use So I thought that was a wonderful message. Thank you, Jacob. Absolutely.
I'm very grateful that I had the experience to make a book, and I hope a lot more kids get to make the book. And
Jacob, I just want to say, I can't wait to come see you as a jockey, because I love horse races, but I'm glad you didn't bring a snake here tonight, because I don't like them at all.
Good luck being a jockey.
Great job, Jacob.
New York bestseller.
All right, so the next three winners from the Shark Tank performance and design categories all happen to be from Coleraine Elementary. Unfortunately, Jill Darling, the access teacher from Coleraine, can't be here tonight. She, one of her children was being recognized elsewhere for her accomplishments. So I'm going to introduce the first person is Elise Manus, whose sister was here earlier being recognized as well. So it's like a big night for the family. Her Shark Tank idea was called the Pen Pal. She has a poster board presentation as well as a video presentation to share with you tonight.
She's excited.
If you need from me anything, it's okay to sit there.
No, you're fine. You're fine. Leave it there.
That way the camera can get it.
so my idea was the pen pal, and this is it. It can clip onto your binder or your stuff so that you can, when you switch classes in school, you don't lose your pencils, because a lot of time per day is dedicated to losing pencils, and that would actually be like 10 to 15 minutes per day. And after a year, it can all add up. Like, it's like 40 to 50 hours per year lost. And so I designed my pen pal on a 3D printer, and we printed it at the public library downtown. And so it was made on the Ultimaker. And so then, well, some of the design features on this is it can clip onto your binder, and it has individual clips. So this is a half-scale model. The full-scale model would take 10 hours to print on the 3D printer, so we didn't have that time to do it, so we made it small-scale models. And so because of that, the pencils really couldn't fit in the clips, so we just added clips from Amazon. And then
Good old Amazon.
it had bright colors, so it's not really, it's really easy to find, and so. Sorry guys, I cannot seem to get myself organized today because my pencils are always falling on the ground. Man, my name is Elise Manus, and I'm a 5th grader at Coleraine Elementary School. I invented the Pen Pal, a device that can clip onto your planner or binder so that you don't drop all your pencils. It is difficult to carry around huge stacks of notebooks and binders and pencils from class to class during the school day. Pens and pencils always fall off my stack, and I can never get it up. So how does this even make a difference in the world? So how does the Pen Pal change the world? Well, to me it makes it more convenient for school, and it adds more class time. So the average elementary student has 3 to 4 classes a day, and they're using 3 to 4 minutes per class looking for their pencils. This is really annoying because I sit there for about an hour a week altogether, like just being bored, looking for me and other kids looking for their pencils. If you calculate it, it's about 40 to 50 hours lost a year looking for pencils. How did you design this small-scale model? This pen pal design was created on Tinkercad and was printed on a 3D printer. This is only a half-scale model, but with your investment, I would mass produce this at full size. Tell me a little more about how it works. So the first design feature to my pen pal is that the clip here will hold on to the binder so that it is never lost. And then it has individual clips that hold pencils in place. So here it is. But this is only a half scale size, so we had to add our own clips. But then it also is a bright color and shatter-proof plastic so that if you ever do drop it, then it will not break. That's my pen pal.
Well, this is fascinating and all this, but what are the numbers? How many kids will be using your product? And how does this benefit me investing in you?
So you're asking about the numbers. Well, there is about 56.6 million kids going to school. Well, I'm thinking that about 50% of them, which would be equal to 28.3 million kids, would buy my product. So I would sell these for $3.19. The cost of one of the pen pals, including manufacturing and advertising, is $1.69. So the profits would be about $1.50. So my annual sales would be $90.3 million a year, and my annual profit would be $42.5 million a year. For $100,000, that would supply me, you with 20% of my company, and that would buy me 4 injection mold machines that are $12,500 each, and $50,000 to marketing to school districts for supply chain.
Your idea is a great idea. I just want to know more about the marketing. How would you get the word out to people? And how would I know that at least 50% of children in America are going to buy this product?
The key to marketing my pen pal would be to market it to the right people. I would market it to school districts and teachers. That way they would put it mandatory on their list to back to school. This would also make all the stores see how they need to buy my product to sell at their store. So Sharks, what do you think? Are you going to invest?
Mr. Yashimura, are you going to give her the $100,000?
It's a deal. Here's your money.
take checks?
I can't wait to start working with you.
Inventor Shark doo 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 doo. Inventor Shark doo 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 doo. Inventor Shark doo 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 doo. Inventor Shark. Investor Shark doo 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 doo. Investor Shark doo 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 doo. Investor Shark doo 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 doo. Investor Shark. Yeah, it's the end. Doo 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 doo. It's the end. Doo 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 doo. It's the end. Doo 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 doo. It's the end.
Very nice.
Well, Lisa, all I've got to say is I'm glad that we always have Shark Tank. We DVR it because I know we're going to see you on there one day.
Yeah, at the end, when we did It's the End part of the Baby Shark thing, well, we didn't even know we were going to do it. Then we're like, oh, well, that's what it is in the real Baby Shark video, so we need that.
Absolutely. It was a nice touch.
Awesome job.
Thank you.
I just want to be her agent.
I'd like $90 million.
Yeah, Mom and Dad, I think you're gonna get to retire early with these two. You're good.
All right, the next category is performance, and one after that is design. Both of these next two categories, the students chose to answer the question, how did one idea change the world, rather than the first two, how could one new idea change the world? So Corbin Simpson, he made a video for us, a performance, to show us how Philo Farnsworth changed the world with his TV invention. Again, from Coleraine Elementary. Do you want to come up? Anything you want to say before I play your video? Okay.
Philo Farnsworth drives in his car listening to music when an idea strikes him.
I love seeing things compared to just listening. I wish that there was a way for people to actually see what they're listening to. Wait, I have an idea.
Philo was hard at work trying to figure out how to create this contraption. It was way harder than he ever anticipated.
No, this isn't gonna work. Let's start over. Maybe if the nodules go there, maybe if we come with something that reduces light towards the frame, and then it will have a back piece, and then we could go in together and make the final looks of a box. And it will need the wire spot. This will plug into the wall. A table, most likely will come. And we're done.
Philo was hard at work trying to figure out how to make this contraption actually work. So many small components and parts had to all work together, and he had no idea where to even start. Luckily, he found many parts till he started his idea. Would this invention ever actually be created? Or would this idea simply be that? Only time will tell. Philo worked day and night on his invention. Once he had some momentum, he could not be stopped.
Hey brother, what are you working on? My newest invention yet. The television. It's gonna change the world. What does this television do? Imagine watching a baseball game in your living room. And if I get this one piece done right in, my invention should be complete. Everything's coming out nicely. I have a screen and audio. The television, 95% complete. Philo Farnsworth did end up creating a TV. Now, 2019, and more than 95% of all households have a TV. TVs are now 5 times thinner than they used to be. This is proof that the TV has changed the world. I finally made a good screen. Here you go. Corbin is coming out
We're making a movie here, lady.
Why? It's a corner. Everything's coming together nicely. I have a TV.
That's a TV? Snap.
Huh? Oh my gosh.
By the way, I had no idea what I was doing.
When tonight?
No, when I was like making like little pieces and all that.
Thank you.
Awesome. Well, I thought it was very creative. I like the black and white and all of the attention to detail. I liked it.
I love how everybody.
Was this one of your guest stars? Nice job there too.
Thank you.
I like how you guys involved your families as well. Good job.
Absolutely.
All right, last but most certainly not least is Ashley with us tonight. Ashley Heibel. Okay, you can come on up and tell us how the telegraph changed the world.
So, hello, my name is Ashley Heibel, and I'm from Chlorine Elementary, and I did the design process of how the telegraph would change the world. Okay, so I had to do a 6-step process, and my first thing that I had to do was the brainstorming stage. So for the brainstorming stage, I thought he wanted a faster communication. So I put a letter, and I drew a letter and kind of a symbol that made it seem faster. And then my second stage was the design stage, and that was when he first designed it and made the what he wanted it to look like. And then the third stage was the first model, the prototype, and so this is my prototype, and yeah. And so the next stage was basically the fixing stage, and so before it could only go up to 2 miles, but then he made it go to Baltimore to Washington, D.C., which was 40 miles. So Samuel Morse. So then my second to last stage was the test stage, and that was when he tested it for his last time to make it work. And then the sixth stage was the final stage where it was the actual one, and my dad and I made it actually work. So he also used Morse code for the communication, and Morse code is a lot of different it can be done in different ways. And so one way that we made it we used it was sound. So if you press down right here, it makes a sound. So yeah. And the telegraph changed the world because many people could talk faster without like having to send a letter, with it taking for about a week or two to get there, and like people in the Civil War used it to like communicate, to talk faster about like what was happening. So yeah.
And thank you to the board for letting the students present tonight. I know you have a busy agenda.
Awesome, this is great.
This is the best part of the
Yeah,
meeting.
nice job.
Could we have the kids introduce who they brought with them, who brought you to us? Ashley, do you want to introduce your family?
Yeah. So my mom and Mia and my dad was here with me. So yeah.
Okay, Corbin, you want to introduce yours, family?
So my dad, my mom, and my brother.
And Elise.
This is my dad. This is my sister Lily.
And Jacob.
This is my mom. And this is my dad and my brother. We wanted Jason in the book and he was Jonah.
All right. Thank you very much for sharing.
All right, at this time, I'd like to have all representatives and families out to the hallway for a group picture. Come on up.
Corbin, was that a golden retriever? Best dogs ever.
Real creative stuff here.
How did we already do this with the blueprint?
Yes.
Okay, we're going to move on to reports from employee organizations. Anybody from certificated or licensed? How about classified employees? Any reports from school-related organizations? I have not received a request for any community comments. You can at the end if it's something that we're talking about. Go ahead.
It'll be quick. I just wanted to, first I have a quick question. Someone reached out to me right before we came here and asked me to bring it up about are there changes with the transportation around the school? Some bus riders, I guess there was some confusion around if people were some of the kids that were bus riders around the school that took the bus right off of Kemper and Pippin at PRE. And I guess this year, when that app came out, they discovered that they were not bused anymore, and there was some concern about that, so I was asked to bring that up tonight.
Chris?
So is there clarification on that, or?
They're currently working on routing, but for now, the board policy says that there's no transportation within a mile of the school, so that's how the routing starts out.
Okay, I was just curious because a lot of those kids were the bus last year, and now they're not, and I know that, I sat at several meetings where it was stated that because of all the issues with no sidewalks and the heavy traffic on Pippin and Kemper, that those kids would be bused, and now they're not. So I know a lot of people are really upset about that. I think, Venus, you live kind of close to there, and there's a few other parents that have concerns about that.
I don't think any final decisions have been made yet. I know Bob and Thomas will be at the June 23rd board meeting to do a presentation on transportation.
Okay, I just wanted to get the clarification.
Yeah, there's no
because they're
final
asking. Okay.
determinations.
Okay, perfect. And then I just want to say thank you to Diane for last week, and I just want to say something a little bit about decorum, because I know there's a lot of emotion around the last board meeting, but I think it's important to point out that when board members do not agree with each other, and you're not always going to agree on a board, none of us are gonna agree on everything in the community all the time, but I think it's important to always project a level of decorum and professionalism, and I know that a lot of people have shared that they felt like Diane was kind of beat up, and I've known Diane personally for several years. I know that she is an industrial engineer. I know she's a successful business owner, and I know that she has a lot of intellect, and she's very much entitled to her opinion, and I feel very strongly that she did a really good job representing some voices that often are not heard. And so I just hope that moving forward that we can practice a level of decorum and professionalism, and you guys shouldn't be beating each other up when you disagree. I mean, that's what a good cohesive board actually should do. You shouldn't agree on everything all the
Monica,
time.
can you give us
So-
an example of this quote-unquote beating up?
Not by you. It was, I know that there were some words that Pam had for Diane, and kind of questioned her voting and how she voted, and questioned, her support for Dr. Turney when there was like a room full of people and 2 meetings here to support her, and she had every
Actually,
right
Monica,
to take
well,
that.
give me your,
So,
I need your card so we can turn it in. 'cause
So, but I'm
somehow-
finished. That's all I have to say. I know
Okay,
you like to cut me
But I
off.
do need your card for.
And I will pass this down so you have it.
Okay.
But again, thank you, Diane, and thank you all for your listening around the concerns about the transportation issue.
And just for clarification, because I usually sit here and try to not debate back and forth, the only thing I questioned was that when Diane said to everyone, did you know that somebody can have a contract and we can vote to get rid of them? I had no idea, and alls I pointed out was the week prior to that, it was a 5-0 unanimous vote that this board did the exact same thing to other employees. So I was just pointing out that you did know that, because when it was discussed, explained through the attorney, and a vote was taken, and it was a 5-0 vote. That's all I said. Other than
Okay, well,
that, I
the
think I've
video
been
speaks for
respectful.
itself, and I think there was a lot more to that if we're gonna be honest about it, but anyway, thank you, Diane, thank you for listening for the board and the administration. Have a good day.
And so my clarification is that I didn't know before I became a board member that was something that the board had the ability to do. So once I became a board member and very specifically dealing with the Dr. Training thing, that I was learning that. So it wasn't that I, as a board member, didn't know it, but it wasn't something I knew as a community member. So once I became a board member.
And I understand it, but I just wanted to point out that you had voted to do that to somebody else. So it's either, that you had already voted the week before. And I just wanted to make that clarification that it wasn't something we slid in that you being new didn't know. That's all I was pointing out.
And I was a part of it. I've heard the comments from the community, and I have by no means, I want to say, I didn't request Monica or put her up to that. That was completely on her own. So, but I do thank you for the comments, and I have seen the comments from the community. But the clarification is that I didn't know prior to becoming a board member that the board has that ability to end someone's contract. I was under the impression that the contract was binding, not that a board could overturn it.
Yeah, it's only in a reduction in force. Okay, so now we are at,
Yes, the first item is certificated licensed personnel item, certified retirements and resignations. The superintendent recommends the Board of Education approve the certified retirements and resignations as listed.
So moved.
Second.
it's been moved and seconded. Are there any questions regarding retirements and resignations? Okay, Chris? Motion passed 5-0.
Next item is a classified personnel item, classified retirements and resignations. The superintendent recommends the Board of Education approve the classified retirements and resignations as listed.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Are there any questions regarding the classified retirements or resignations? Okay, Chris? Motion passed 5-0.
Good evening. It's been a while since we've had our regular board meetings, so there's several minutes to be approved tonight. So first, I'd like to ask the board to dispense with reading of and approve the April 15th regular meeting minutes.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved in second. Are there any questions or clarifications for the regular meeting on April 15th? Okay. Motion passed 5-0.
Next, I'd like to ask the board to approve the April 22nd work session, to dispense with reading of and approve the April 22nd work session minutes.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved in second. Any questions regarding April 22nd work session meeting minutes? Okay. Motion passed 5-0.
Okay, next I'd like to ask the board to approve, to dispense with reading of and approve the May 6th special meeting minutes.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved in second. Any questions regarding this special meeting minutes for May 6th? Motion passed 5-0.
Next, I'd like to ask the board to dispense with reading of and approve the May 6th work session meeting minutes.
So moved.
Second.
Been moved in second. Questions regarding May 6th work session meeting minutes? Okay. Motion passed 5-0.
Next, I'd like to ask the board to approve the financial packet for the month of March. In March, our all funds cash balance was a little over $60 million, and our general fund unreserved cash balance was a little over $32 million. Our revenues are tracking at 84%, and our expenditures were at 75%, which was tracking right on target for the month of March for the year. Our investment return was about 1.62%, and the bills to be approved were our routine monthly bills as well as our master facility project, our Medicare fees, supplies were purchased, we had cafeteria tables, and bleacher repairs. With that, I'd like to ask the board to approve the March financial packet.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved in second. Are there any questions for the financial reports from March? Motion passed 5-0.
Okay, next, I'd like to ask the board to approve the April financial packet. So for the month of April, our all funds balance was $55 million. Our general fund unreserved balance was $28 million. Our revenues were tracking at 88%, and our expenditures were on target at 83% for the year. Our investment return was 1.38%, and this is due to laddering of investments and as investments mature. And our list of monthly bills for approval were our routine monthly bills, as well as some instructional supplies, some boiler repairs, and purchases of equipment. So I'd like to ask the board to approve the financial report for the month of April.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved in second. Any questions on the financial reports for April? Motion passed 5-0.
Okay, next I'd like to ask the board to accept, approve, and appropriate the school-wide improvement grant for our 3 middle schools at $194,000. This grant's purpose is to increase math curriculum and to teach our math, professional development to teach our math leaders to act as math coaches and improve math testing.
Do you have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
It's
Been moved in second. Amy, this is a new grant. Have we ever received this one before?
We have not, it is a new grant that the three middle schools applied for and received, and Lorraine Elementary did not receive it.
Awesome.
How many teachers does this include?
All math teachers at all three middle schools.
Do you know the quantity?
Pardon me?
Do you know the quantity?
The quantity of
Teachers at the, well, the school.
Math teachers, there's at each grade level, probably 24, 36?
Yeah.
36 total.
36 at each, 36 total?
36 total across the district in each grade level.
A lot of it is for professional development for them.
Anybody else? Okay. Motion passed 5-0.
Next, I'd like to ask the board to approve transferring $108,000 to the school supply fund for fee waivers for the year.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved in second. Are there any questions?
Was there a request, is this for like students haven't paid their fees and we're covering that, or what is?
When you fill out your applications in the year, you can request to be on a fee waiver list, and these are for the students who qualify and have requested to be on the free waiver list. You have to qualify based on economic conditions.
I don't know if these are like back fees that someone owes.
No, you have to apply every year. It's an annual application to apply based on economic conditions, and if you meet those qualifications, then you can request to be on the fee waiver list by federal law, and then the district has to, so we purchase the supplies, the district has to make them supply.
Any other questions? Motion passed 5-0.
Next, I'd like to ask the board to approve these in and out certificates over $3,000. We had 2 invoices that came in for special needs transportation where there was not a purchase order in place.
So moved.
Second?
It's been moved in second. Questions regarding the then and now certificates?
I have one question. Is this something that our transportation could pick up? Like, I'm sure there's specialty things you have to have on the transportation vehicles. Is that something that we can incorporate instead of outsourcing this, if I'm understanding this correctly?
So we've had meetings, they've looked at it.
That's something that we're currently looking at now, and we are planning to incorporate some of that for our summer special needs students this summer. And we're also taking a look at what we spend for our current transportation by outsourcing that to UPS, et cetera, bringing that back in-house, using that money to purchase new vans and hire new drivers.
And when you say money, you're talking about the reimbursement for the transportation from
We would use the
some type of
funds
managed.
set aside for the outsourced vendors that we're currently using.
And it's a billable service, correct? It's a billable service with like Medicare, Medicaid?
Some are, it depends on the IEP of the student.
Sure.
The funds that are requested to cover, what time frame is this for? Per month?
March. Those are monthly bills.
Any other questions? Motion passed 5-0.
Next, I'd like to ask the board to approve the temporary appropriations for fiscal year 2020. We have to have our temporary appropriations in place prior to July 1st so that we can start operations and have purchases and pay bills. The temporary appropriations are made up of the budgets that were proposed by the buildings and departments and approved by Mr. Bowling, and they'll be incorporated in the forecast later.
So moved.
Second?
Moved in second. Any questions? passed 5-0.
So next, I'd like to ask the board to approve the resolution for our deposit of public funds. Every 5 years, we do a depository agreement with a bank. We look for a local bank who has at least 2 locations within our district since we are so large. We're looking to keep costs low as far as the fees and also to maximize our investment return. So we did an RFP. We had banks submit their proposals, and we have selected PNC tonight. This is also the bank that we've currently used for the past 5 years, so that does help us with transition to be ready to go for July 1.
So moved.
Second.
Moved in second. Questions? Motion passed 5-0.
Now, you've had lots of presentations tonight. I don't think I can compete with any of the kids, but so the 5-year forecast is required to be submitted by the Board of Education to ODE, the Ohio Department of Education, twice a year, in October and an update in May. So tonight, I wanted to do our May update for the forecast. But in October, I asked you to think about this number. Does anybody remember?
That's when the kindergarten will graduate.
Here's our current class of kindergartners this year. So we've done presentations in the past with the forecast. We've gone through what each line item means. We've gone through how much we spend per our line item. But the question I always get is, well, what do we get for our tax money? What do we get for what we pay? So tonight I wanted to go over, start with the services that we use the funds for, and then go into the forecast. So our students start each day with a smiling face from our 87 drivers and assistants. We have 215 routes on a daily basis, which we travel 3 tiers and about 6,500 miles. 5 mechanics take care of all our buses. We transport about 6,900 students, and our transportation annual budget is almost $6 million. They get off the bus and they come into our nice, clean buildings. We have 51 custodians. We have 8 maintenance to take care of all our facilities. We have 16 buildings that they take care of. We have 1.3 million square feet. We do a level 3 cleaning, which is, there's 5 levels. And our annual budget is almost $7 million for custodial and maintenance. We went 1-to-1, so our students get into the classroom and they get their computer. Our computers, we have 6.5 techs that take care of all our equipment. Equipment includes 9,500 student devices, 1,100 staff devices, around 500 interactive projectors and devices, and our annual budget is about $1.2 million for technology. And then we have our instruction. 573 teachers teaching 9,000 students on a daily basis with about $56 million annual budget. And I want to give a shout out, congratulations to our Teachers of the Year this year. And also we have student supports. So we have 19 counselors, 4 media specialists, 235 assistants, and 17 nurses for about $12 million annual budget to give supports to our students. We do provide additional opportunities to our students. Above and beyond this, we have traffic control and resource officers and extracurricular activities at about $1.4 million. Traffic control and resource officers are about $800,000 annually. Our preschool program, we had a great presentation tonight. We spent about $1.2 million on our 5-star preschool program. All to get to the great graduations as we've celebrated this week. At Coleraine, we had 464 graduates earning $4.6 million in scholarships, and at Northwest we had 231 graduates earning $2.8 million in scholarships. And also, our students that attend Butler Tech, 90% of them are employed, enlisted, or accepted to college when they graduate. So, the May 5-year forecast. That's to show what we do on a daily basis, the services that we provide, and what our community receives. May 5-year forecast. In the state of Ohio, schools have local control. So when you have local control, the state splits the cost of education. And so what they do is they determine what a community can afford locally. They determine the formula that they think basic education should cost. So they take this formula, they subtract off what the community can afford locally, and then they fund the difference. Right now, per the state formula, the state funds us at 40%, and the community should fund us at 60%. However, currently our funding is the state is giving us the 40%, and our community is providing 40 of the 60%. So we have 20% of the basic funding formula that is unfunded at this time. Our current fiscal year, we've looked at these pie charts over the past years. The pie chart themselves doesn't really change. The amount we spend on salaries and benefits and purchase services are within a percentage or two of every year, and the amount that we receive. However, if you look on what we receive, the dark blue, the light blue, the orange, and the red, this is all local. The restricted aid and the purple unrestricted aid, this is from the state. So again, most of our revenue that comes in is from our local community. And our expenditures, salaries and benefits, this is our staff. We are a service organization. Most of our expenditures are on staff. And then we have purchase services. Purchase services are for our special needs services, tuition for students going elsewhere, utility costs. Those are what make up most of our purchase services at 19%, and another 3% for materials and supplies. The 1% on other expenditures are our county treasurer and auditor fees for collecting the tax bills, audit costs, insurance costs. So we've talked about how with the state funding formula and the way the state makes up school funding, they require local districts to go back to their community and ask for increases in revenue. And the typical school district goes out every 3 to 5 years. Northwest has not been out to ask for new revenue since 2007. So what you want to do when you're planning levies and looking for additional revenue is you want to ask for more than what you need to begin with, so that you break even halfway through whatever levy cycle you choose, so that you spend what you received here in the end. Because a levy is flat when it is voted for, it never changes. So you have to ask for what you need about midway through, and then you receive more in the beginning that you can use in the end. Our levy history, we've showed this several times over the past several months, but locally we received about $44 million from our local taxes. Again, levies are fixed when passed, so even though they were passed in 76, 86, 97, the dollar amount stays the same. We collect today what we collected in 1976, in 1986, in 1997. The dollar amount's the same. The only way for the district to increase revenue is to ask for the community to vote for and pass another levy. So without a levy, this is what our forecast projection shows. We do have a cash balance policy of 60 days. The red line is our cash balance, so we don't have a carryover. This is our revenue needs. We've been discussing since 2012 that in 2019, fiscal year 2019, we would be in an operating deficit, which is our current fiscal year. We know that without additional revenue, our deficit is just going to increase. The longer we put off acquiring additional revenue, the larger the gap gets and the harder it gets to address the issue. This is our forecast. Deficit spending is the maroon. This is what happens in the forecast. With the proposed levy we've been discussing in work sessions, we still have deficit spending and we'll still need to reduce expenditures, therefore reducing services. This is the proposal that we have been discussing. 7.5 mil levy for 5 years would bring about $11 million a year and would need to be renewed in 2024. We also would need an additional levy every 5 to 7 years from then, so another levy in around 24. We have our original 2007 emergency levy that needs to be renewed in 27 because we have been operating on that levy since 2007. And the thought of now that the state allows for a substitute emergency levy, which is after you've passed an emergency levy one time, you can take it then back to the voters to pass as a substitute emergency levy, which would make it a continuing levy and you wouldn't have to keep asking to keep it. We've discussed what a 7.5 mil levy would look like. So on a monthly basis, the average is about $38. And on
That $38 you said there, that's based on the value of what kind of house?
That's the average, so.
Oh, the average of those the 100,
Yeah,
150, okay.
this would be the property value,
Yes.
not necessarily just residential.
So
Also
$38 average of those four values.
$175,000.
Okay.
Yeah.
And on an annualized basis.
Sure.
How our chart changes if we pass a levy. Again, we start going negative or under our cash balance policy about 2022 and negative around 2025. This is our situation on a typical levy. I know this is kind of opposite, but a typical levy, here's our deficit spending. This would be the levy proceeds. You only receive half in a year because taxes are collected on a calendar year basis and we operate on a fiscal year basis. So the light purple is what the cash balance would change to if the levy was passed. Typically, you would start asking for a new levy before you go into deficit spending so you can prevent the deficit spending going forward. Currently, where we're at and what is being proposed is here's our deficit spending for our forecast. Here's the levy proceeds if we were to pass that levy. And here's the difference in our fund balance. So we still stay negative, which as I said, which means expenditures need to be reduced or find an additional alternative revenue source, which also, if expenditures are reduced, that means services are reduced. And then here would be the new levy. So we're kind of behind because it's been 12 years since we've asked for a levy, so we're already behind. So we've looked at how our district compares to other districts. And the black arrow, this is Northwest. So any district on to the right of the arrow, your home, for the exact same value, you would pay more in taxes than you pay here at Northwest.
So on a whole, you're getting a better bang for your buck being in our school district. You're paying less taxes, less property taxes.
Yes, for the same.
Than the rest of the school districts all the way to the right of where that black arrow is.
For the same property valued at the same price, yes, correct.
Gotcha.
And then the ones that are highlighted in yellow have an income tax in addition to their property tax. This gray line is the 20 mil floor, which is what the state law requires. Every district has to collect at least 20 mils. And then they're either getting additional taxes on top of that or income or both. How much would we need to spend to be at the state average was the question we had. And we're at 8,400 and the state average is at 9,200. That would be almost a little over $7 million more per year we would need to spend just to get to average. Additional considerations that are not in the forecast is the state budget does change every 2 years. the district's preventative maintenance and repairs. We do have some money that we spend out of our O3 permanent improvement fund, but we're not addressing long-term preventative maintenance and repairs. Unfunded mandates, 'cause we don't know what they are at this time, and so what could happen, and changes in the economy. In 1997, the Supreme Court rendered that the school funding method in the state of Ohio was unconstitutional. In 2000, the Supreme Court said the state had not done enough to fix the problem. And then they also ruled it unconstitutional in 2001 and again in 2002. So for 4 times, the Supreme Court has said the state of Ohio school funding formula and method of funding schools is unconstitutional. But in 2003, they ruled that while it's unconstitutional, the Supreme Court will no longer have oversight to ensure that the state complies and fixes school funding.
So basically, the Supreme Court's just washing their hands of the situation and leaving it up to the politicians.
Well,
To
they
take
ruled on it, but they didn't give any solutions. I followed this Supreme Court decision.
Right. They've ruled on it 4 times.
Yeah.
And they're
And
leaving
they
it up
give
to the
no
legislature.
explanation as far as how to ease this problem of state funding.
Well, the reason why it was declared unconstitutional is over-reliance on property taxes. Our
Right.
school district is the perfect example. 60% has to come from the local community, and the state only pays 40%. There are other districts that they pay up to 95%. So that's why it's unconstitutional. So after the Duroff case, the state did increase school funding almost 77%, but that was prior to 2009. Since 2009, we have been flatlined with the pass formula. We've maintained 2009 level of funding with the bridge formula. We've had the SFPR formula, which did a state share index that compared us to every other district in the state on a bi-weekly basis. And the poorer someone else got, the richer we got, and we kept losing even more money. Finally, in 2016-17 biennial budget, we got a 4% increase from the state. In the 18-19 budget, which is what we're currently operating on, we got a 0.3% increase from the state. And now they're proposing a 0% increase for the next 2 years in state funding.
Is that just for our district or everybody?
Every district in the state of Ohio. They're going to keep it at, right now they're proposing, right now it's in the Senate, it still has to go to conference committee. We'll probably know by June 30th to start our year, July 1st. But they're proposing a 0% increase in the state funding formula. So people ask me, what am I going to do about it? We've been on committees, we've had tons of meetings with legislatures. It's going to take communities to talk to the legislatures, because the only way for the state funding formula to change is if the legislatures have to change the formula at state level.
And aren't those 2 guys on that committee, our 2 representatives?
Mr. Blessing is on the finance committee of the House. It's
Yeah.
already through the House, it's now in the Senate.
Do you have any comments, or do they ever say anything to you? What has he said to you, Blessing and Tahar, about funding? Or have they even talked to you?
Mr. Blessing and I discussed early on when I got on the state committee to help redesign state funding,
Yeah.
which was over 18 months ago. But the House didn't take that into consideration.
He didn't have any solutions to help out the school districts? And he's on the finance committee?
We haven't discussed. We didn't have that specific conversation.
Okay.
So tonight I want us to keep the end in mind and remember that all of our students need to have a quality education with supports and be prepared and ready to compete in the 21st century. Yeah.
If you can go back to your graph that has
Chris, can you put that back? Graph.
It has the red bars that talk about the cost per student by district. A little more down.
It's 22. Oh, no.
No, it's more.
It's down.
Keep going.
It's down further.
No, keep going.
One more.
Right there.
Nope.
No.
Yeah, this one.
That one?
So there, I see Indian Hill, Hamilton, Oak Hills, Princeton, and Princeton, that have a lower cost per student than.
This, oh, from the other slide, this isn't this is the number of mills that they've passed locally in their community.
Oh, this is how many mills they pass?
Mhm.
Oh, I thought this was cost per student.
No, this is the,
That's what I thought too, when I looked at that. But that was, that was talking about the property taxes.
yeah, this is the
Okay,
property tax.
So what is this again? This is,
This is the property taxes, the amount of millage that the community has passed in each of these school districts. So if your house was picked up from, if your house was picked up from Northwest and moved over here to Kings, the exact same house, you would pay more.
gotcha. Okay. Where was the one that showed the I thought you had one where it showed cost per student by district.
2 or 3 down. Yeah, right there.
Oh, okay. So you have only one, so Fairfield has a lower cost per student. Is that correct? Is that the blue section?
Yes.
But do they have a, another tax also? Fairfield?
So my question is, have we spoke with them on what they're doing, how they're able to educate their students and at a cheaper rate than we are, as far as like possibly some benchmarking ideas?
And we did a comparison of report cards, and our report cards are identical. But no, fiscally, Amy and I have not, no.
Well, I mean, I pooled their data. The problem is that every school sometimes classifies things differently, so it's hard to tell apples to apples and to make comparisons. Every district in the state is different, why there's local control. It's very difficult to compare districts to districts.
Can I ask you to briefly describe the, I think it's the Cup-Patterson legislation at the state level? Just briefly. I'll give you 30 seconds.
We spent 18 months trying to figure out what the cost of a student should be. Basic education, what's the true cost? What are the services needed by students, and what should that cost be? And so the Cup-Patterson goes through looking at every service, every person, how many teachers, what class ratios, just for basic education, what that should be, so that all schools are funded the same. It looks at the 20 mil floor, so everybody's charged the same, and then develops the formula and then pays the difference. And then they want to put that in law so that every 2 years we're not trying to figure out what's the state funding formula going to be, who's going to win, who the winners and losers are. Are they going to flatline it? Are they going to fund it? They're trying to fix the problem, or another shot at trying to fix
If
it.
if the governor signs it into a law, would that benefit Northwest?
No.
And is it going to be signed into law? I heard that it was not.
Right now, it left the House, and the House rejected it. The House continued the governor's proposal. It is now in the Senate. After it leaves the Senate, it'll go to conference committee. The Senate could use it, and then it could go to conference committee, and they could figure it out. So we don't know.
How much do we have in reserve now? Reserve funding? Is that 20? Are we using that now to fund the deficit?
No. You mean our cash balance policy?
Right.
Agreement. So we are at 25 million of the 23 million required for the current year. Next year we get below.
And so it's just that we're going to go below our floor. That's all I'm saying.
Correct. Because since we're deficit spending, we're eating into that one-time money that we wanted to keep on hand for economic fluctuations, local initiatives, changes in the economy. So as we go into deficit spending, we're eating into that. We can't rebuild that back up. But then also that means the revenue is not meeting annual expenditures. And so at some point, we're going to run out of money.
And that's from not passing levies, new money since 2007, 12 years. That's like, that would be like somebody living today in 2018 on the same money that they made in 2007.
That's what we're
That's
operating on.
that's basically what we are operating on, basically 12 years behind where we should be.
I wouldn't say the whole 12, because we did pass a levy in 2007.
Right.
But maybe by 2012, we probably should have had proposed a new levy.
Yeah.
But
And
just
then
to
again in 17, and we're already to 19, that's
Yeah.
2 levies.
But just to clarify for people that did just go and we passed a levy and we have new buildings, I know the answer, but just, that is, just to explain it again, that is
The
totally
building-
different money.
It is. So the levies for the buildings approved for bond money. So the taxes that are being collected on the building bonds goes to pay those bond premium payments. It does not go to general operations.
And the levy that was passed did not raise taxes anyhow
For the building?
for the building.
Correct, because at the time, our revenue was exceeding our expenditures. So instead of overcharging the community, the board asked that we would convert that levy into the bond levy and have their taxes go to pay for the bonds and not to general fund and just build up more cash reserve.
So basically, all the years we've tried to keep it down, or even some of the years we didn't ask for as much money as we probably should have, but we wanted to keep it reasonable. It's just all catching up with us now.
Yes, and it's going to continue to because, sorry, trying to find it. Even with this proposed levy, we're still in deficit spending.
Which means even with the average of $38 a month increase, we're still gonna have to make cuts.
We're gonna have to reduce services, yes.
I thought we were looking at 6.5 and then 7, that would basically maintain where we are now. This is new information that with 7.5 that we have to possibly cut some.
This was the last work session, was up to 7.5.
But there were some
Because
major changes since then, is what she's asking about.
The state funding formula is taking us to 0, so they reduced our revenue, and we're in deficit spending, so we've gotta make it up.
And so there was an addition, instead of 5.1 million spending dollar deficit, it's now 6.9, I believe you stated.
That's, so 2 issues. One, we increased personnel this year, so we had 5.6 million deficit in our October forecast. It's up to 6.9. We increased personnel because our special needs ratios, we're changing, you have to stay within state law, so it requires, as we have even more students identified or move in identified, it requires us to hire staff to stay within the legal staffing ratios. We have a timing, the 6.9, part of that is a timing issue with the new financial software, and that it posts insurance in the month that it is collected. So June posts in June, but we pay it July 1. So our old system would pay it July 1 and post in July, now it posts in June. So that's a one-time timing between the old system and the new system. That's around $680,000. And then we had increased supplies and increased overtime as we were gearing up for the new buildings this past summer. So that was one-time expenditures that popped it up from 5.6 to 6.9. And then on the revenue side, the state capped us because we started the CEP program, which was providing breakfast and lunch to all our students at the 3 elementaries, which then capped our state funding at $4 million. So we had more students enrolling, our enrollment went up, the state cap says you can't grow that fast, and so they refused to pay us what they owe us, and so we were capped $4 million. So between the increase in the cap, the timing of that insurance payment, the increase in additional staffing, our deficit went from 5.6 to 6.9.
And the staffing for special ed, wouldn't you say it's like this year to year as you try to forecast it with your October and May reports?
It seems to just continue to increase.
So it is on a continuing increase for special needs students.
As well as transportation costs for it too.
Which goes back to Mark's comment about the UTS and why we needed that extra additional money, because we're transporting special needs students.
Right. So, the Colerain Elementary, that portion, is that still Title I or is that not Title I?
Colerain Elementary is Title I.
It is Title I, so there was no effect in the deficit when it comes to them, because they retain
Correct, and
status.
Title I is federal funding, the forecast is just general fund.
So I thought that like PRA transferred into Title I, but you're,
They've all been.
have
Title I.
PRA's always been Title I? Oh, okay, so.
All the three times.
So we, I'm just, it's new information as far as the funding for the meals. I thought that was part of the Title I program, but the government was funding that portion of it.
The beginning of last year, the food service department started the CEP program for 3 new elementaries because their percentage qualified them to be school-wide breakfast and lunch.
But that's not federally funded, that's funded by?
No, that's federally funded. But what happens is it affects the state funding formula because the state uses that percentage in their formula to determine what our economically disadvantaged ratio is. So when they put it in the formula, it increased our revenue projection in their formula, as well as we had increased enrollment. So when it increased their number and the increased enrollment, it capped us where we were not gaining from that increased enrollment.
Basically, when we get money, somehow they figure out how to take it away from us somewhere else.
And
Or
the
at least
state's
part of
very
it.
good at either flatlining or putting an appropriation line item in that says we can't spend no more than this amount, so even though we owe you this, sorry, we're not gonna pay it because we're only gonna pay this amount. Transportation's like 91% funded instead of 100 because they appropriated only so much money, and so once they determined what everybody in the state would be owed, it exceeded their line item, and so they allocated it down proportionally.
So the 7.5 that you're proposing still will keep us in deficit spending. What millage would it need to be at so we're not in deficit spending at this point?
That's 6.5 million. So almost 11 mils. Right. So we have to
And you're-
ask for
Yeah.
what's possible and also reduce services.
I mean, your chart went up to, I believe, 8. Was it that shows what you have to pay for?
Oh, yes.
Just so I can see, even what does 8 look like? 8? Average $40?
About $2 a month more.
I'd like to see what that 11 looks like.
Okay.
Just per dollar, what it
I
looks
can
like.
prepare that because we're not taking action on a levy
Right.
tonight, so I can prepare
Thank you.
11.
Yeah, and I think, Amy, just because of the questions that I'm hearing, we're all in a little bit of shock because the work sessions, we were talking a 5-year resolution to present to the community that would last. But with the changes that you have just brought to our attention, that's not possible.
I think we still need a partnership and a resolution. I don't know how many years you want to put in there.
Right. But it's not gonna last what you're, because there was talks at 7, there was talks at 5. We're not thinking it would last that long this time.
No, and part of the bigger hit is when the state flat funds us and doesn't give us the 40%, or at least a percentage increase going into the next 2 years. That's a hit.
Well, we don't know what they'll take away from us next year, or the next year.
Well, we don't even know what all they'll take away yet this year. We're not there yet.
On that, where you said that we increased enrollment, but they capped us, how much should we have gotten?
$4 million more.
$4 million more dollars that legitimately should have come to us. Thanks, Amy.
Again, I just want to make sure we keep the end in mind, know where we're going, and try to do what we can to make sure our students have what they need to be able to succeed in the future.
I just think it's important that the community understands, although it's hard to understand, but to explain, just like this, here all of a sudden from last meeting to this meeting, the state just kind of screwed us over for $4 million. $4 million is a lot of money.
Well, and we're a very large district, large employer, we have
Right.
services, it does cost a lot of money, and I think it's, sometimes people don't realize when you're running almost 6,500 miles a day and 87 routes out there, and $6 million a year, I mean, these costs just keep going up and compounding, and when your revenue's flat and your expenditures are compounding, it's very difficult to keep up when the state doesn't want to
The
increase
cap is based on
revenue.
what? The state says, no matter how many students, what is,
The cap says you can't grow more than 3% increase in the projected revenue for the whole formula. So each student, you get different dollars throughout the formula. So if the whole formula increases more than 3%, they cap it and they don't pay you the difference. So we still have the expenditures, we still have the students to serve, but the state does not fund us for their portion.
and that's as a whole, like the whole district. This total amount of students, this total amount of,
Correct, it's done in as a whole.
the reason I'm asking that is that what does it take to split the district?
You would have to ask ODE to create a new district.
And if you have two versus the one, you may not have that cap and have a loss.
But then also your tax revenue would go with whatever, however you split a district.
And that's, Springfield Township, Coleraine Township, Coleraine, and they would vote their taxes or their, just an idea, I'm just throwing it out there, I haven't talked to anybody about that.
That, I think you have to request that from ODE. Since I've been a treasurer, I know of a district that had two communities try to pull out, one ODE denied, and the other one they let pull out.
And I mean, just, this happens to be up here, I mean, the gas tax hasn't, the increased gas tax hasn't even hit us yet.
Well, we get reimbursed for the gas, we don't pay taxes.
Okay, so,
That's one good thing.
that's true. Okay. Thank you.
Thanks, Amy.
I think, thanks.
Yeah, the first part of your presentation was much better.
Yeah, it was a lot better.
So with that, I'd like to ask the board to approve the 5-year forecast and assumptions.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved in second. Any other questions?
I think I'm not a treasurer or CFO. This isn't we pass a levy to support. I think, if this was our house that we were running and one of the spouses lost a job or revenue, we'd be making changes. We would be cutting off dish network and, adjusting. And I think if we maintain the way we run our school district, and when we were at Capitol Conference earlier this year, I asked a lot of the different school districts that I was sitting next to. Everybody's in the same boat. I mean, it amazes me how consistent it is across the board. But if we don't start looking at this in a different business light and different model and come up with ways of generating more and different revenue, like if we can start transporting some of our special needs kids and build some of these managed Medicaid programs and start capturing that, it might be worth looking at a billing company to say, come in and clean up all of our billing that we can do and capture it. It may be a little bit on the front end, but we might be able to capture that billable revenue on the back end. I guess what I'm getting at is we just can't sit, and I don't say that from lack of effort, we can't sit and expect to do the same thing and get a different outcome. We're gonna have to do something significantly different and unique to try to generate a different financial forecast.
The problem is we're a service committee, and benefits and salaries are 84% of our, budget. I mean, then you have your federal funds, that you have to spend, so there's not really a lot, to do. I mean, you don't pass a levy, and I don't want to be the negative one about it, but there is going to be, you're going to have to cut $6 million.
Sure.
And where are you going to cut that? Teachers, extracurricular activities, transportation. You're going to have a basic education for your kids, and I don't think anybody in here or that's going to watch us wants that. They want to have their kids have a good education. And when that happens, there goes the value of your house is going down, and the most important asset generally of everybody in our district is their house. Do you want to spend an extra $38 a month, or do you want your value of your house to drop down $5,000-$10,000? I think people have to realize this is what's coming, and this is coming like a train, and we have got to get on on board this and, you know, talk to as many people as we can about passing this levy.
Sure.
Because this is vital to the kids in our district.
Well, in the day and age that safety is so important, I mean, we don't want to see to cut resource officers or cut back on transportation where more kids are out on the road. But, you know, $6-7 million is a lot of money. Like, but the other thing I want to remind, there have been a lot of things in thinking out of the box for quite a few years. I mean, the one thing with the health insurance consortium, I mean, we did that, how many years has it been now? Where we went self-insured and we did a consortium with other school districts and tried to keep the cost down and offer the best that we can for our employees. Because the way we were doing it before, I mean, it just, you couldn't handle 15% increases every single month. But even that's getting hard because the claims are more than what we're taking in, and that can't last either. So, and you know, our employees took what we had at one point 3-year freeze. I mean, we never recover from that with the employees. You have a 3-year freeze, you can never give enough increase over any amount of time to make up for that. And we've been through that too. So, I mean, it's just, it's just important that people realize there's not fat in there at all. I mean, it is a revenue problem. I mean, when we go from one meeting and then come now and see the state now is gonna, you know, $4 million more we're not gonna get, how do you budget for that? And I don't know how you budget to even know, you know, X amount of special ed students are going to move in next year or next month or whatever. And that all needs to be paid up front. And it should be. We're a public school district. But we spent almost $1,000 less than the state average to educate our kids in this district. And it's caught up with us. We've been below supporting the public schools for years, and it just, all these years it's compounding, and now we're in a position, I mean, I can't even imagine looking at somebody and saying, oh, we're putting a 12 mil levy up, and that'll just get us even. I mean, we've got our work cut out for us, that's for sure. But you see the beginning of the meeting, and you see those 5th graders and that 8th grade girl that was a national champion in the whole United States, and you tell me that we're not educating and we're not doing it right in the classroom. Just the presentations tonight, and to have a 5-star preschool and getting the kids prepared for kindergarten. There are a lot of great things going on in this district, and we have to focus on that, and we have to educate our parents, because if all our parents go and vote, we should be able to do this. But it's gonna take everybody to do it. But with that, I'm not even sure, we're waiting on 2 for voting. Okay, that motion passed 5-0. And I apologize because I don't know what happened there. Okay, thanks, Amy. Okay, master facility.
Next item is a general business item. It is a master facility project GMP adjustment in order to adjust and close out each guaranteed maximum price previously approved by the Board of Education. Superintendent recommends the Board of Education approve the attached change order as listed.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved in second. Any questions? Does that show you guys have already voted?
No, it shows we already voted on this one.
It shows we already voted on this one.
We didn't.
We didn't.
We
didn't
didn't
vote
vote
on
on this thing.
Is everybody's vote that this is showing accurate?
What was it, because there was a motion and second, and Mark asked a question. We didn't actually vote.
What is going on
Yeah, I
here?
think we did. We did vote.
He asked
But
the
we didn't vote for
question.
this yet.
Right.
Okay, here we go.
Yeah, this is the 5-year forecast.
Which we voted for
Okay, so
already.
everybody voted on that.
Yeah. So now we're at the next
Should be a
thing.
GMP.
Yeah, the
It's not
GMP has got to be
moving forward
voted
up
on.
But it shows we already voted.
Here we
Yeah,
go.
but-
No,
Okay, now,
no, it's
It
showing
shows
up
we already
again.
voted.
oh, it does, you're right.
Yeah.
It's showing we voted, and it never came up to even vote.
For the
Yeah, we
GMP?
did vote for the GMP.
You know
Yeah.
what?
Go
I'm
back,
gonna-
Tom's read minds.
Okay.
Yeah, okay.
Mrs. Betzel?
Aye.
Ms. Bradley?
Aye.
Mr. Ushimara?
Yes.
Mr. Gilbert?
Aye.
Mr. Dempsey?
Aye.
Motion passed 5-0.
I think it's caught up now, we'll see. The next item is vendor contracts. The superintendent and treasurer recommend the Board of Education approve the vendor contracts as listed.
So moved.
Second?
It's been moved in second. Any questions? Motion passed 5-0.
Next item is certificated licensed personnel items. The superintendent recommends the Board of Education approve the certificated licensed personnel items as listed.
So moved.
Second?
It's been moved in second. Are there any questions? Motion passed 5-0.
Next item is classified personnel. The superintendent recommends the Board of Education approve the classified personnel items as listed.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved in second. Any questions? Motion passed 5-0.
Next item is curriculum and instruction. The 2019-20 student fees were presented as information at the last board meeting. The superintendent recommends that the Board of Education approve the 2019-2020 proposed student fees as listed.
So moved.
Second?
It's been moved in second. Any questions on the student fees? Motion passed 5-0.
The next item is 2019-2020 middle school general music course. It was presented as information at the last board meeting. The superintendent recommends the Board of Education approve the middle school general music course as listed.
So moved?
Second.
Moved in second. Questions on middle school general music course? Motion passed 5-0.
Next item is student services, 2019-2020 attendance and enrollment handbooks, presented as information at the last board meeting. Superintendent recommends the Board of Education approve the 2019-2020 attendance and enrollment handbooks as listed.
So moved?
Second.
Moved in second. Questions on the attendance and enrollment handbooks? Motion passed 5-0.
The next item is revised 2019-2020 school calendar. The school calendar is being revised to allow the 7th and 8th grade students to start school on August 16th, giving the 6th graders a day to transition from elementary to middle school and become familiar with the middle schools. The superintendent recommends the Board of Education approve the revised 2019-20 school calendar as listed.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any questions?
Has the school day, like start time and end time, has that been released?
They will be the same as this year, and they will be a part of the handbooks that go out.
So I thought I saw something where there's no more of the, not in Thursday, the early release.
Right.
So early release is gone. This is just changing the day. So the calendar for next year as far as start time and end time will be the same as it is.
Will be the same. The 6th graders are now doing currently what the 9th grade doing to help them adjust to high school. That's all this is changing.
Passed 5-0.
The next items are for information and/or discussion. The first one is a physical item, the 2019-2020 Student Activity Handbook. It is for information. Any questions you have, please let me know prior to the next June 24th, or the next board meeting for approval, which will be June 24th. The second item for information is curriculum and instruction, is 2019-2020 curriculum handbooks. So they are attached. Any questions, please let us know and we can answer them prior to the June 24th board meeting. The next item is student services, proposed 2019-2020 student support guidelines and code of conduct. These are for information only. And lastly is the 2019, and there is a typo, 2020 student service handbooks. So these are all for information. They will be submitted for action at our next, not the next board meeting, but our June 24th board meeting. Okay, for my update, proud of the students and our teachers and our staff at each high school and what we heard about and what was spoke about at our high school graduations. So very proud of our students at Northwest and Colerain High School. We will have an agenda item on the June 23rd board or June 24th board agenda to discuss graduation and allow the board to ask questions and have a conversation. I have to say that at a previous board meeting when we were having these conversations, we checked with surrounding school districts about graduation policies and routines, and that I had made a comment about the Winton Woods graduation. I don't think it's appropriate for me to ever comment on other schools' graduations, whether I like them or dislike them. We need to worry about our school district. So for that, I apologize for bringing other school districts in it. It was only to show that we had looked at other graduations. Each school district is unique. We have our own challenges, and I will respect the decision that we come up with as we move forward. The bottom line is we have to do what's best for our students and as our parents to make sure it is a graduation that everyone is proud of. So again, on June 24th, we will make this as a board agenda item. It has been a great school year. We have learned a lot from combining the 5 elementary buildings to 3, and we will use the summer to make changes and improvements. Anytime you go from 600 to 900, it's a lot of work. So I commend our staffs at all our new buildings for making adjustments and moving forward. Amy stole my thunder, but it's worth repeating. I was very proud of the fact that Northwest High School students, seniors, earned $2.8 million in scholarships, and Colerain High School earned 4.6. We're producing outstanding students and are very proud of their accomplishments. It was really great to hear. I think the one thing that really shocked me from graduation was 108 cum laude recipients at Colerain High School. I'd also like to give a Hamilton County Educational Service Center Business Advisory Council update. This is where we partner with them as required by the state and remind folks that this is through Scarlet Oaks and Great Oaks, but also our partnership is with Butler Tech. We talked about the Ohio gross domestic product. It grows as the U.S. product grows. Nationwide companies will have to increase prices due to tariffs, so they're looking at what cost that could come to the career centers. Leading economic indicators show there is a slowdown in spending as we currently look at it. And unemployment rates in Ohio are at 4.6, and nationally it is 3.9. There are still labor shortages. We are still seeing it in our classified positions that we are trying to fill for our schools. Private sector has grown 1.9%. Job openings are on the increase, and automation and robots have not hurt manufacturing employment, which is good for the 90% that Amy again stole my thunder and put up there, that they are leaving the career tech programs with jobs or going to school or straight into the force. For next year, we're going to look at and revisit the supply chain career pathways, business roundtable about district report cards and what they mean to employees. I'd like to compliment our Colerain Chamber of Commerce. They've invited John Graff to come and talk to them about this is what we would like to see your graduates coming in and what hands-on experience and skills they need. We will also attend and partner with that and try to relate that information to our students who are not in our Career Center programs. Next year we'll also deal with career exploration and UC Economics Center. The only thing I did want to remind everyone is we did at the last meeting at a June, or 2 meetings ago, at a June 10th meeting for the resolution for the levy and the partnership with the district. It will be at 8 a.m. June 10th. It will be a very short meeting just to vote on a resolution determining our levy amount for the November levy in terms of millage. So I want to make sure you guys have all that on your calendar. And that's all I have.
Okay, thanks, Todd. Okay, at this time, community comments. Does anybody in the audience have any questions or comments about anything that was discussed tonight during the meeting? Okay, so we will go to board comments. Joe?
Yeah, last year I wasn't able to attend the graduations of either one of the high schools. I had a very important family situation that I had to attend to. But this year, and I had angst about going to either one of them because of the reports from the previous graduations, it was not good, and the administration from both buildings tried like heck to keep the order. When I went to the graduations this year, I thought, I would say maybe about 5% were disruptive. The other 95% of either one of the graduations was fantastic. So I want to congratulate Mr. Jack Fisher, and please extend that to Susan Smith, that they made every effort to make their students celebrate their graduation in a very orderly fashion. Thank you, Jack. I still want a shirt.
Okay. I want to start off by, congratulating, Ms. Tracy Johnson from the teacher who was awarded for PRE. That what she did, as far as the field trips for that was phenomenal. My personal child actually attended that, and I'm a big component of the schools, or the students getting out of the schools. And so all the work that she went into, I personally benefited from my family, and I just want to commend her again for all the work that she did to get that to occur at that school. Also, I'd like to commend Houston Elementary Early Learning Center on all they're doing as far as educating the students before they come to the school. Is phenomenal, and we're seeing the results. 86%, I think it is, that are coming through and are kindergarten ready. So just another hats off, phenomenal job to them. And the students that were here that were part of the access that showed their presentations. I can't tell you the creativity. I was, just inspired by the creativity that they presented with their presentations. They all had different formats, and there were different things that took from them. So I just want to applaud them, or hats off to them for what they were able to accomplish at the level they're at. So I too attended both of the graduation ceremony at Northwest and Colerain, and unfortunately I have to disagree with my colleague here that I thought they went very well. The disruptions, or things that were maybe considered disruptions, I really would just want to. I've tried to state it, and I haven't had the right words to state that there's just a difference in how we celebrate graduation ceremony, and it looks to now that there's been one or a very small box on how the ceremony must perform in, but actually the ceremony that we attended was, for me, a very typical ceremony, no disruptions of any major thing. I didn't walk away from there embarrassed from any family, like, oh, they did that, and oh, they shouldn't have done that. It's just, I'm really just understanding that we have different ways that we have a graduation. We have different ways of way we do things. And just learning that and understanding what we do may be different from person to person or family to family. So I actually thought that both graduation ceremonies went phenomenally. I was very pleased. The speed was I think Northwest was in and out 84 minutes from very first second to the very last procession, and Colerain was 105 minutes for over 400 students. So those are not lengthy ceremonies, and I think they were very well. And one last comment I would say that I kind of said earlier that I did not put Monica up to those comments that she said here. I did not know that she was going to say that. I do appreciate what she did say as far as representing the community. And then one of the points where it's talking about, I think the biggest thing the community had to angst on was the question from him on what my votes were. And it wasn't something I had planned to bring up, but I will. One of the questions they asked was, I was opposing something that came up from the superintendent, and the question actually came to, in regards to you, Pam, is whether, and it's up to you whether you answered or not, but the question was if you have ever opposed something that the current superintendent has put to the table.
current one. I
Yeah.
certainly have previous superintendents, and I'm trying to remember if I have current one or not.
So they were just, of course, I know Joe is opposed to things, but it's just, you know, when there's opposition.
I certainly pick up the phone before any meeting and ask many questions ahead of time. And I certainly have disagreed with the superintendent at times, but we talk about it and I hear whatever side. But just to clarify with what you're saying, I wasn't questioning you on how you voted. The way I took it is you were telling the audience and making it sound, and maybe I misunderstood you, but I felt that the audience thought that on that particular vote, like, you had no idea this was something that could be done. And alls I was pointing out is there were previous employees the week before that it was as hard as decision for me to do it that week as it was the night we're talking about. And I take all those seriously anytime we have to make any type of cuts. So the only thing I was pointing out is that if you were telling people you had no idea you could do this, yet you voted to do it to somebody else, that's all I was pointing out. I don't have a problem. You can vote any way you vote, and we can agree to disagree on any of it. If it was my way, I've worked on every levy that there's ever been, including when I was a kid in this district. So I work hard to try to make sure these levies pass so that we don't get in this position to have to not pay somebody or to riff or whatever. But, I mean, I was not questioning your vote. I was questioning the statement.
Yeah, the statement was, prior to becoming a board member, I did not know the board had the ability to cancel someone's contract if there was not some extenuating circumstance when it comes to their performance or that they acted poorly physically within the classroom. So my understanding is that if someone had a contract with the district, that was the contract. I didn't know the board had the ability to cancel it. Not just that very second, just as a board as a whole.
Right.
It was my reason for that.
I don't think, to be honest, I wouldn't have known that before I was a board member either. You learn a lot as you go, that's for sure. Okay, is that all? Okay, Mark?
Just a couple things. I love the presentation from the Access Kids. That was awesome tonight. It's neat. I think Elisa's will be on Shark Tank. It's just a matter of when. It may not be when. It may be within the next couple of weeks, maybe. The graduations I thought were great. I think they'll, as far as the comment in relation to Diane and Joe, the kids pointed out what they wanted, and they had initiatives with videos and statements before and during the service. And I think it's not about us. It's not about the teachers. It's about the kids that sit on that floor graduating. And if they wanted a ceremony-style process, then that's what the audience should have given them, period. It's not up to our expectation. It's what they want. I want to congratulate Tracy Johnson. One thing they did miss about her is she's a good hallway monitor. I stopped there the other day and she grabbed me and she said, "Do you have a badge on?" And I was like, "Excellent." And just overall, I think it's been a great year. One more day, right?
Yep.
That's it, just one more day. So I thought, I want to make sure. I think we've had a very successful year. I've enjoyed everything. I know we're coming into a big difficult season. Hopefully, I plead to the community to let's quit focusing on any little differences and come together for the needs of the kids. I mean, I think a lot of times we say things are for the kids, and I don't think it really is for the kids. It's about personal agendas and things like that. We need to come together for the children.
I just want to congratulate all the kids that were here, especially Jacob Barrett, who wants to become a jockey.
That's awesome.
I like that. He just better not grow very much. And I want to congratulate Lydia Manus for being first in the nation through the BPA in graphic design. I also was at the graduations. I don't think the graduates could have made it any more clear what they wanted the audience to do, to not scream and holler so you couldn't hear the kids names that were following the groups that were screaming and hollering. I said it last year, I was very disappointed. I am again this year, because if one kid's family can't hear their name, that loses it for me. And I hope we can come up with a plan at both high schools for next year where we can do something where we can get this taken care of. And I get, Diane, your comment that everybody cheers differently or celebrates differently, but this is a ceremony. This is not a football game. This is not a basketball game. It's a ceremony. It's a big thing for kids, 12 years of going to school and getting a diploma. It's a big thing. That's why I've lived in this district all my life, 59 years, raised my kids here, went to school here, graduated here. This is a big thing. And I think some of the kids got gypped when their families can't hear their names. And I just hope we can come up with a solution so this doesn't happen again next year. That's it.
Talk about steal thunder, try to have to go last when everybody's already said everything, and I've got this written down. First of all, I want to welcome Lindsay. I didn't get to meet you at graduation, but I'm excited to get to know you. I'm very glad that you're part of the team. Saw you working very hard at graduation and getting pictures and everything, so welcome. The best part of this job is those presentations tonight with the kids. That's what keeps me here, that reminds me that's what it's all about. It's what those kids are learning in the classroom, and that's just a small little fraction of what's going on every single day all over the school district, and I'm very proud of that. As far as graduation, I was super impressed with all the student speakers. They were amazing. The teacher, Mr. Fricker, that spoke, who was a nervous wreck, but he did an awesome job too. I loved how he incorporated so many, he personalized his speech and talked about so many different kids by name for all different reasons. Whether it was, the kids that every morning he would see and they would say hi to him every morning for the whole year, and how that just started out his day, to, all the different examples. I think both schools did an awesome job on recognizing students. There were so many students recognized for so many different things, and it always gives me goosebumps, especially when the class really cheers and claps for the kids that are joining the military. Because I look out and I think, they're making such a grown-up decision to serve our country and protect us, and, I hope they make it home safely, and all this mom stuff's going on in my head, and when they're announced, it's just such a proud moment when I can see their fellow classmates get it, and they clap, and a lot of them even stand and give them a standing ovation, and I think those are the things that are great about graduation. We can agree to disagree on, how someone celebrates or doesn't celebrate. I will say it's hard if I'm standing there and I'm handing out a diploma and I can't hear the kid's name that's coming next. I try to call every single student I give a diploma, I try to call them by their name. And there were a lot of names I had no idea because I couldn't hear it. And so if I couldn't hear it, I know grandma didn't hear it, or mom didn't hear it, or an aunt didn't hear it, or dad or sister or brother, and maybe we do a better job pausing. I don't know what the answer is, but I don't want to take away from all the great things and the traditions that both schools, they have their own traditions on how, their own little piece of graduation, and I think it's awesome how they do it. I want to wish all the graduates good luck. I hope they come back and visit us. And I too love the Tracy Johnson taking that on to organize all that for the overnight at the zoo for, was it all three grade levels?
I know third graders.
Yeah, that, I mean, that's, my daughter got to do that too, and that's pretty cool. Some of us just take it for granted. Some kids don't ever get to go to the zoo, so the fact that they not only get to go, but they get to go with their classmates and they get to spend a night, that's really cool. All the athletes that were recognized, I mean, it looks like we got a pretty good middle school group gonna head up to the high school, doing some really good things, so that's exciting as well. So, anyhow, I look forward to, I know there's not a whole lot of you here, I appreciate those that are here in the audience, and I certainly invite you to be a part of our levy committee, and I hope we can work together and do what's best for the students in this district. So with that, I will take a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Okay. I didn't. Did it not advance? All right.
There you go.
Meeting adjourned. Thank you.